Little Lily stood in the courtroom, her voice trembling as she said, "I saw him do it. He hurt Mommy." Silence fell, and the room was frozen. What happened next shattered everything. The truth she revealed changed lives forever. But what came after will leave everyone questioning everything. Let's start from the beginning. The courtroom was suffocating in its silence. The only sound the sharp crack of the judge's gavel as it signaled the start of the trial. What seemed like a routine case was about to unfold into something far more unsettling. At the heart of it, small Lily Anderson sat in the witness box, her figure almost lost within the vastness of the space. Her small hands gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles white, betraying the fear that gripped her fragile frame. Her large brown eyes, wide and filled with uncertainty, flicked nervously from one face to another, unable to escape the weight of their gazes. Lily, only 8 years old, had been called to testify against the man who had once been a part of her family, her stepfather, Jacob Reynolds. In public, Jacob was a respected lawyer, admired by colleagues and the community alike for his success and charm. But behind closed doors, he was something else entirely, something that no one knew. No one except Lily and her mother, who had lived in fear of the man for years. Lily's testimony was the moment everything would change. As she sat there, her fragile frame trembling, she gathered all the courage her small heart could summon. The words that escaped her lips would be the breaking point. "I saw him," she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath, trembling with the weight of the truth. Her eyes were downcast, avoiding the burning stares that followed her every move. "I saw what he did to my mommy." Her statement hung in the air, thick with the weight of its implication. The room seemed to freeze, a collective gasp echoing through the crowd. The defense attorney was the first to break the silence, rising to his feet with a flurry of motion, demanding more details. But Lily, fighting back the tears that threatened to overwhelm her, simply nodded. Her voice, though fragile, steadied as she prepared to speak once more. The truth she was about to reveal was a burden too heavy for one so young to carry, but she did it anyway. Despite the fear that gripped her, despite the tears that blurred her vision, she was determined to speak. And the courtroom, filled with its hushed murmurs, waited for the next words, the next truth that would unravel everything they thought they knew. The defense attorney's voice cut through the courtroom, harsh and relentless, attempting to discredit the fragile girl at the witness stand. He insisted that Lily had misunderstood, that she had misremembered the events, twisting her perception into something it was not. His words were sharp, trying to break her down, to plant seeds of doubt. But each accusation was like a blow to Lily's already fragile soul. She clutched the edge of the witness box, her knuckles white. But there was something in her eyes now, something far beyond the terror of a child. It was resolve. Lily's mother, Claire, sat in the audience, her body rigid, her face ashen. Her hands were trembling, but she dared not move. She had spent years concealing the truth, hiding in the shadows of fear and shame. Claire had known the depths of Jacob's cruelty, had seen it destroy her own sense of self, but she had never dared to speak out. To speak would mean exposing the horrors that had taken place within their home, exposing the man who had once been her husband, and the dark, twisted side of their life together. But now, in this very moment, Lily's testimony was pulling the secrets from the depths of Claire's soul, forcing her to confront everything she had buried for so long. The defense attorney's voice was getting louder, more insistent. He suggested that Lily was simply a confused child, inventing stories out of thin air. But Lily wasn't backing down. Her small shoulders squared, and despite the tears that welled in her eyes, her voice rang with chilling clarity, stronger now, as if her very soul had found the courage to speak the truth. No, he did it. I saw it. Mommy was crying. He hurt her. Lily's words cut through the tension in the room, each one laced with the raw, painful truth of what she had witnessed. The room held its breath. The defense attorney faltered for a moment, his words stumbling as if unsure how to proceed. The air in the courtroom felt heavier, the weight of Lily's conviction pressing down on everyone. And then, for the first time, there was no room for doubt. The truth had been spoken. No one could deny the innocence in Lily's eyes, the unwavering certainty in her words. The court was stunned into silence, the implications of what had been revealed unfolding before them like a nightmare come to life. The shock in the courtroom was suffocating, a heavy silence settling over the room as the weight of Lily's testimony crashed down. For a brief moment, no one moved, no one spoke, until the prosecutor's voice broke through the stillness, his words sharp and commanding. He demanded that Jacob Reynolds be taken into custody immediately. His face was pale, disbelief etched into every feature. Jacob, once a well-respected member of the community, now stood at the heart of a nightmare, the truth of his twisted actions laid bare for all to see. The defense attorney, previously so confident in his ability to protect his client, stammered through his arguments, but it was clear the defense was crumbling. One by one, witnesses came forward, their testimonies reinforcing Lily's brave words. Each new voice added weight to the case, making Jacob's attempts to deny the truth increasingly futile. His polished facade as a lawyer, a man of integrity, began to crack, and the man who had once seemed untouchable was now exposed as a predator. Amidst the growing chaos, Lily remained remarkably composed. The courtroom erupted in anger, people shouting, pointing, some even in tears, but the small girl sat still. Her posture was straight, her shoulders squared, and though her eyes shimmered with the remnants of fear, there was an undeniable pride in the way she held herself. She had done it. She had spoken the truth. And now, there was no turning back. Her courage had torn apart the lies, and the room knew it. Claire, sitting just a few feet away, felt her own heart shatter. She stood slowly, her legs trembling, as if every inch of her body was fighting against the truth she had known for so long. The guilt was suffocating, but the relief, the weight that had been lifted from her soul, was undeniable. The man who had tormented her in silence, the man she had once called her husband, was now a convicted monster. The world knew what she had endured, and she was left standing in the aftermath, the truth of her own suffering finally exposed. Jacob's fate was sealed, but for Claire, the pain of living in that shadow would never fully fade. As the judge pronounced the sentence, Jacob was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs. Lily's testimony had been the key to his downfall. The courtroom was silent, the weight of the truth heavy in the air. No one spoke. No one needed to. But the silence wasn't just from the gravity of the moment. It was also from the realization of how much courage it took for an innocent child to speak out against such evil. And for Lily, the silence was also a release. The truth had been heard, and justice had been served. Claire hugged her daughter tightly as they left the courtroom, tears streaming down her face. "You did it," she whispered. "You saved us." In the end, the courtroom had been silent, not because of the horror that had been uncovered, but because of the bravery of a little girl who had exposed the truth and, in doing so, set herself and her mother free.